everyone, welcome back to Debug Diaries. I am Manharsinh Jadeja, and in this episode 4 of an Blazor Crash Course, we are going to learn understanding of an Razor components. So, throughout this video, we are going to explore first what is the component, what will be the structure of a component, how you can create a reusable component. So, these are some basic things about the component that we are going to learn. So let's jump to the code. So this is our first Blazor demo that we have created earlier. So if you haven't aware about this, you can refer our previous video that how to create our initial demo with the Blazor application. Yeah. So in this we have a one home page, we have a one counter. When we click on the click me button, it will be auto incremented, and there is a one tab for the weather where we are getting some defined data from, we can say, using the minimal APIs. Yeah, so this is about the our previous demo that we have created. So now first, what is the component? So let me give the one example of a component. So just counter.razor is one kind of component. So basically, if you talk about the definition of a component, what you guys can say that the razor page, or you can say the one block of a code in which you guys can cover the HTML code, your C# logic, that kind of all your logic will find one component, and that will be your main pages, or that you are defining throughout your application development. So this is my component. In component there will be, if we talk about the structure, the first what will be there, the first will be the routing part of a component. That at the rate page, I have to define the my routing path using the at the rate page. That whatever I will write here, if I define the counter one, then my path will be the counter one whenever I will run this project. So this will define my path. Afterwards there will be a HTML code that you have to define here. Whatever the code you define, in that particular code, if you want to use some razor syntax using the at the rate, then you can define like at the rate current count. So what is the using the razor syntax, we are binding the C# logic over here. And just for your information, that in particular Blazor, what the components are doing, your razor components will be run at the end as a C# logic. So whatever your logic will be there, it will be run as a C# at the end. Yeah. So afterwards, here you can see that using the razor syntax, using the at the rate, I have bind the one incremented count method, and that is developed in the C#. Now regarding the logic, that whatever the logic you want to write, that logic you can write on the at the rate code part. If you want to create a one separate file for the logic, then that you can also do that. Like as of now we have this code here, and here you can see that auto incremented will be happen here, but I want to move this code or move this logic to the separate file. So what I can do, that this project is already running, so I'm not able to create the new file. Yeah, so just add one new item, as you have to write your C# logic in the separate file. So what you have to do is first paste the name whatever your razor page have. Afterwards you have to just add the CS file or the CS extension, I can say. Once you add, it will add that CS file into below the counter.razor, or we can say that as a child of a counter.razor. Now here you can see that we are getting an error for the counter. Why we are getting? Whenever you move your code whenever you move your code from razor page to separate CS file, at that time you have to define your class with the partial keyword. So partial is a metadata file, we can say. So once you define the partial, it will work fine. As it is a metadata, we cannot navigate to the symbol. Yeah, that's fine, no problem. Okay. So let's move our logic from this razor syntax or the razor page to counter razor dot cs. So it will work absolutely fine. Now you can see there is no such a error here. Yeah, fine. Or if you will run this, it will work same as on a previous it is working. Yeah, so let me show you that. Yeah, so you can see it is working like a same as earlier it was working. Yeah, so clear about this structure, that whatever first will be your routing path of your razor component. Afterwards there will be a HTML syntax in between. If you want to implement the CSS kind of thing, that you are able to implement that with the razor syntax. Using the @ you can able to access or you can able to implement the CS your logic with your HTML code. And as we have seen that in particular in the razor file, if you want to put the logic, you can using the @ code you can put your C# logic over there. And if you want to create the separate file, then you can also able to create that. Yes, if someone have a question that in particular create razor file, if I want to do or if I want to implement the specific CSS file, then yes, you can do that as well. Like in our layout we have already one separate CSS file. What is that means? That as I have created main layout razor.css, so this CSS will be only applied to the main layout razor component. Rest it will not going to apply to any other component. So if you want to add that you can also add. Yeah, so this was about the structure. Now let's see that how we can reuse the component. Or many times there will be some big kind of forms or the big kind of implementation that you have to implement throughout your project development. So at that time you have to create a reusable code or you have to create the partial component that you can use throughout your project without any hurdles. Yeah, so as I have created one count, as we have already created this counter, so I can take this counter as a reusable component. If I want to implement this counter functionality into other any component, then let's see how I can implement that. Let's see, I have a home.razor page. In this component I want to use the counter. So what I have to do, that just I have to access the counter. Yeah, so it is simple like this, that I have to just put the counter and this will work fine. Let's rerun the project and then we can check that in home razor component we are getting a counter or not. So many times there will be a long forms you have to develop when you are developing something. At that time this functionality is a crucial, that reusable component are, we can say, the heart of your development process. That how much efficiently you guys are using that reusable component or the partial component, that will be matter your development cycle. Yeah, so as we have reused this counter, so you can see that in our home page we have this component, we have rendered this component. Yeah, in the counter we have already this. Yeah, so we are just reuse this component in our home screen as well. Now if you want to pass something like in the counter, let's say just as we have a counter tag, let's I am here defining in the code, let's we take a one name. So let's we are taking one property and that will be a string, or we can say that forum name. Yeah, fine, that's fine. Okay, Now you have to define the parameter here. What is the meaning of parameter? That we are getting some error. What is this? Attribute parameter is not valid on this declaration type. It is only valid on the property or the index declaration. So as of now we have just defined the variable, we haven't defined the properties. So we have to define the properties, right? Yeah, so now you can see that error is already gone. Now I want to access this param name to the counter here, that I have a counter at the rate, I can say param name. Fine. Yeah. So as in the CS file we haven't given anything to the parameter name, but now let's, as we are reusing this component from the home screen, so as let me pass this parameter name. So as we have already defined over here, so we can pass the any value from here. So let me passing the parameter that sing from home, right? Now let me run this again. Okay. So similar to the parameter names, if you want to pass the multiple parameters, yes, you are able to pass. Along with, if you want to pass the classes as well, yeah, you are able to pass this class. Yeah. So we are getting here counter passing param from the home. Or if we will go to the counter, yeah, fine. As we haven't anything value over here. Why? That in counter part, in the counter component we don't have any value for the parameter name, as it is in a string.empty will be there. But for the home, particular home Blazor page, we are passing this value as a passing param from the home, so it will be visible for the only home page. Yeah. So this was about the Razor component. So regarding this code, I will upload this code to the GitHub, so you guys can access this code from over there. Yeah. So this was all about this Razor component. I hope you guys are clear about the structure of a Razor component. Afterwards, how you guys can use that particular component. Yeah, so this was all about that. So in our next video we are going to learn about the bindings, that how we can do one way binding, two-way binding. So let's meet to our next video. Stay tuned about the learning. Yeah, stay healthy. Bye everyone.